Looking for some spooky Halloween cake decorating ideas? Well, you're in the right place. Halloween is the perfect time to let your creativity run wild. And what better way to do so than by decorating a cake? From jack-o'-lanterns and spiderwebs to mummies and Frankenstein's monsters, the possibilities are endless. Imagine a round cake transformed into a smiling jack-o'-lantern, or a dark frosted cake adorned with a delicate spiderweb, complete with gumdrop spiders. Picture a cake wrapped in mummy bandages, or one that bears the green-stitched face of Frankenstein's monster. Consider a brain cake, its pink or gray frosting molded into grooves and folds, or a simple white-iced ghost cake, its face created from mini chocolate chips. Envision a cake decorated with a fondant haunted house, surrounded by candy corn, gummy worms, and gummy ghosts. Or perhaps a dark chocolate cake topped with bat-shaped fondant or cookies. How about a candy corn-inspired cake layered with orange, yellow, and white, or a witch hat cake frosted in black or purple, complete with a fondant belt and buckle? And finally, a bright monster eyeball cake and a spooky graveyard cake, its chocolate cookie dirt scattered with candy tombstones. All these cakes are not just deliciously scary, but also an absolute treat to the eyes. So are you ready to dive into these creepy yet delectable ideas? Let's start with our first cake, the jack-o'-lantern cake. First on our list is the classic jack-o'-lantern cake. Let's get started with this iconic Halloween symbol that will surely delight your guests. Start off by baking a round cake. The size is up to you. Once cooled, cover it with a layer of bright orange icing. This will form the vibrant skin of our cheerful jack-o'-lantern. Next, it's time to give our jack-o'-lantern some personality. Using black icing or chocolate chips if you prefer, craft a face on the cake. A pair of triangle eyes, a nose, and a big toothy grin should do the trick. But wait, we're not done yet. What's a pumpkin without a stem? For this, you can use a piece of sugar ice cream cone. Just place it on top and coat it with some green icing. And there you have it, a spooktacular jack-o'-lantern cake. With a little creativity and some baking skills, you can bring the spirit of Halloween right onto your dessert table. Next up, we have the eerie spiderweb cake. Let's delve into the darkness and start creating this spooktacular masterpiece. Begin by frosting your cake with a layer of black or dark purple icing, setting the perfect scene for our creepy crawler's home. Now, the fun part begins. Grab your white icing and pipe a web pattern onto the cake. Start from the center and work your way out, spinning a web of sugary delight. Don't worry about making it perfect after all. Have you ever seen a perfect spider web? To add the final touch of terror, place a plastic spider or even better, gumdrop spiders on top. You can almost feel them crawling on your taste buds. And just like that, you've spun your very own edible web of fright. Voila! Your very own spider web cake to give your guests the chills. Now, let's bring some ancient horror to the table with our mummy cake. It's a treat that's sure to have your guests wrapped up in delight. You'll start by baking your favorite cake and giving it a generous coat of white frosting. This will serve as the base for our mummy's bandages. Now, the fun part begins, creating the mummy bandages. You can use strips of white fondant or pipe on more white icing, whichever you prefer. Layer these strips across the cake, leaving a small space for the mummy's eyes. Remember, the messier, the better, as this adds to the mummy's ancient and unraveling appearance. For the final touch, place 2 candy eyes in the space you've left earlier. There's nothing quite like those haunting eyes peering out from beneath the bandages. And voila, you've just created a dessert that's part delicious cake, part ancient mummy. And that's how you wrap up a delicious mummy cake. Now, let's put a delicious spin on a classic monster with our Frankenstein's monster cake. Start by covering your cake with a lively green icing, reminiscent of the iconic monster's visage. Once your cake has taken on its frightfully delightful hue, it's time to bring Frankenstein to life. Use your black icing to etch out Frankenstein's defining facial features. Start with thick, brooding eyebrows, then add a pair of menacing eyes. Don't forget the stitched-up mouth and a few scars here and there for an authentic touch. Remember, the beauty of this cake lies in its imperfections, so don't be afraid to get creative with your icing skills. Now, for the finishing touch, what's a Frankenstein monster without his bolts? Place 2 chocolate truffles on either side of your cake, creating the iconic neck bolts that are synonymous with our misunderstood monster. And there you have it, a monstrously delightful Frankenstein cake. Next, we're stepping into the zombie apocalypse with our zombie brain cake. For those with a love for the undead, this cake will be a truly gory delight. Start by frosting your cake with a coat of pink or gray icing to get that brain-like color. Then, it's time to get a little creative. Using a knife or the back of a spoon, carve gentle grooves and folds into the icing to mimic the convoluted surface of a brain. Don't worry about getting it perfect. Brains are notoriously squiggly and irregular, so let your creativity flow. To finish off, let's add a touch of horror. Drizzle some red gel or strawberry sauce over your brain cake for that freshly feasted upon look. This gives the cake a gruesome yet deliciously sweet flavor that will have your zombie-loving friends coming back for more. There you have it, a brainy treat for your zombie-loving friends. Now, let's lighten things up with a hauntingly cute ghost cake. For this, you'll need a cake of your choice, frosted all over with fluffy white icing. This will form the canvas for our spectral sweet treat. Next, grab some black icing or mini chocolate chips to create the ghost's eyes and mouth. Remember, ghosts can be friendly too, so don't feel the need to make them look too scary. A couple of oval-shaped eyes and a surprised O for a mouth should do the trick. Now here's where you can let your creativity take flight. You can either shape the entire cake like a ghost, perhaps using a stencil or freehand if you're feeling brave. Alternatively, you could create adorable ghost-shaped cake toppers. Think of it as your own edible haunted house, with the ghostly inhabitants floating above. And there you have it, a ghost cake that's more sweet than spooky. Next, let's create a spooky scene with our haunted house cake. Picture a cake, your canvas, awaiting a haunting transformation. First, we craft a haunted house from fondant or cookies, depending on your preference. This house can be as intricate or as simple as you'd like. Remember, it's your creation. Now, we begin to breathe life into our scene. With candy corn, gummy worms, or gummy ghosts, we add spooky details around the cake. These can be scattered haphazardly for a more chaotic feel or arranged with precision, perhaps a candy corn pumpkin patch or a gummy worm graveyard. The choice is yours. As you place the haunted house atop your cake, it becomes the centerpiece of your edible Halloween scene. With each added detail, your spooky creation takes on a life of its own, captivating and delicious. And there you have it, your very own edible haunted house. Now, let's spread our wings with a bat cake. To create this nocturnal masterpiece, we'll start with a cake frosted with dark chocolate or black icing, setting the stage for our eerie night sky. Now, it's time to bring the bats to life. Using black fondant or cookies, we can craft bat-shaped cake toppers. If you're using fondant, roll it out and cut it into bat shapes with a cookie cutter. If you're using cookies, choose a bat-shaped cookie cutter to create your edible night flyers. Once the bats are ready, it's time to position them on the cake. You can place them on top as if they're flying under the moonlight or around the sides, giving the impression of bats fluttering around a haunted castle. Feel free to get creative with the positioning, and remember, it's Halloween, so the more bats, the merrier. And there you have it, a bat cake that's just batty enough for Halloween. Now, let's sweeten things up with our candy corn cake. First, you'll want to bake 3 separate layers of cake, 1 orange, 1 yellow, and 1 white. This will mimic the iconic layers of a piece of candy corn. Once your cakes are cooled, stack them in the order of a traditional candy corn piece. White on top, orange in the middle, and yellow at the bottom. Next, frost the entire cake with a layer of white icing. This not only locks in the moisture of your cake, but also creates a blank canvas for your candy corn decoration. Now comes the fun part, decorating. Grab a handful of candy corn candies and start arranging them on the cake. You can create patterns, or you can simply scatter them on top for a more rustic look. Continue this process until your cake is fully adorned with these sweet tri-colored treats. And there you have it, a candy corn cake that's sure to be a hit at any Halloween party. Now, let's cast a spell with our witch hat cake. To create this hauntingly delightful dessert, we start off with a cone-shaped cake. This will form the base of our witch's hat. Once baked to perfection, frost it generously with a bewitching black or a potent purple icing, whichever tickles your fancy. Next, we bring our hat to life with a fondant belt. Roll out a strip of fondant tinted to a dark contrasting color and wrap it around the base of your hat. Then, fashion a square buckle from the same fondant and affix it to the belt. It's all in the detail. To top it all off, place a witch figurine or a broomstick on top of the hat. The choice is yours, but remember, the more eerie, the better. This is Halloween after all. And there you have it, a witch hat cake that's wickedly delicious. And there you have it, spooky and creative Halloween cake decorating ideas. We've journeyed through a haunted world of edible delights, from the grinning face of a jack-o'-lantern cake to the eerie webbing of a spider web cake. We've unraveled the mystery of the mummy cake and confronted the monstrous charm of Frankenstein's monster cake. We've delved into the gory details of the zombie brain cake and floated through the spectral sweetness of the ghost cake. Our adventure continued with the haunted house cake, a confectionery abode of frights and delights. The bat cake swooped into the scene, dark and delicious, followed by the vibrant layers of the candy corn cake. The witch hat cake, complete with its fondant belt and buckle, cast a spell of irresistible flavor, while the monster eyeball cake kept a watchful eye on our taste buds. And finally, we concluded our spooky bakery tour with the cemetery cake, where chocolate cookie dirt and candy tombstones made for a truly grave-licious treat. Each of these Halloween cake decorating ideas brings its own unique flavor to the table, and the possibilities for customization are as endless as a witch's cackling laughter echoing through the night. Whether you're baking for a party or just for the sheer joy of it, these ideas are here to inspire you. Remember to get creative and have fun with your Halloween cake decorating. Happy Halloween baking!